This is the Four-Man Rush. Coach Rhule, I had some comments today, or recently, about the world around us. Jadarius, you wanna hop on that and give us your thoughts on that, please?
Yeah, Coach Rule is an extremely eloquent man. He's able to present information in a way that gets people to understand how he believes, and then also to pull them on the wagon with them. But his comments was really speaking out against racism in every form, and he's like a lot of leaders today are coming out and saying it may not be blatant racism, but if it's systematic, then we have to kill it as well. So I think he did an excellent job of filling out the temperature of the room and understanding where we are as a country and as a society, and then presenting information and an ideology that will help us push the narrative forward and not backwards.
Right on. And we definitely need to move forward, folks. That's for damn sure. Will.
I thought he hit a home run. I think, he addressed issues that a lot of coaches around the league won't address. He admitted that, as a white man and with his family, they don't experience, I'm just kind of paraphrasing, but they don't really experience this every day. So it's easy for them to just ignore it, dismiss it, and say, distance themselves from it, because it just makes them uncomfortable to kind of attack these topics head on. But he just, he hit it on the head by just saying it's just time for us to sit down, listen, understand where these guys are coming from, and be a part of the solution. And it's just good to hear that from a head coach of your organization. And I just think with the Tepper era, this is the one thing that stands out to me so far. He took a chance on Eric Reed when no other teams would.
Yeah.
And I think he would also green light a Colin Kaepernick signing if it came to that. I just think with Kyle Allen playing so well last year, he started 6-1 as a starting quarterback. You can't really bench a guy, with that kind of hot start.
Right.
And they just drafted a kid, Will Greer, in the third round. So you kind of got to see what you have in him. There just never was really a chance to bring in a guy like Kaepernick and, get in the way of the development of the young guys you had on your roster. But it's between what Matt Rhule's saying, David Tepper's actions, what he does in the community as well. It's just really good to see the Panthers as a cutting edge, leading forward-thinking organization. And I think that's one of the things that makes you proud to be a fan of this football team.
As I sit there at night and I watch the news with my kids, I have a 15-year-old, I have a 7-year-old, I have a 4-year-old about to turn 5. It's really clear to me, and I can't speak for other people. I can always only speak for me. But what's clear to me is that history will look back at where we stood in this time, and I know that my kids, when little Leona's in college, 16 years from now or whatever it is, 15 years from now, 14 years from now, they'll look back at this time and this place, and they'll want to know where their father stood and where their mother stood. Our grandkids will want to know where we stood in this time. And, that's a tremendous thing to think about. And I know what it means for me is that, I can't shy away from this moment. And I don't think any of us can shy away from this moment. It is time for a fundamental change in our societies. It's time for a fundamental change in the way that we do things. And I certainly don't have all the answers. But I know as for me and for my house and for the way that I do things, it's up to me to find every which way that I can have a fundamental change. It's important that we make statements, but it's really important that those statements lead to discourse, which eventually leads to action. And, I can say for me, I've tried to be honest and open with the guys on our team and with my friends, with my family. And, I think it's really important at this time that we engage and participate in this discussion on both times. When you're talking about something like racism, And I'm certainly no expert. I don't mean to pretend to have answers, but I have this opportunity to share what I think. If you want to fix this, you can't fix it from one side. We need to have a discourse. And I know as a white man, sometimes it can be daunting to talk about issues like racism. And to be quite honest, we can sometimes be fearful that if we say the wrong thing, that we could, be seen be seen a way that we don't really feel it. But we have to step up.
Well said. Well said. It's nice to have leadership like that in the locker room. Kev.
Yeah, what I liked about what Rhule done was that he was able to take a step back and assess the temperature of the situations and do the right thing. That's one of the things that I like about him is that he's very calculated when he speaks. When he spoke to the team on Friday, they actually had a session where some sort of comedian was supposed to come in and just kind of during the virtual training and things, and just to kind of give a lighthearted mood. But Matt Rhule felt like that now is not the time to be quote having jokes and laughing with everything that's going on. So he decided to cancel that. I just like the fact that he just seems to not mind learning. It's okay to say I don't have all the answers, but what I can do is position myself where that me and my wife can look at our kids and go down the road and tell them that we chose to stand on the right side of history. These are his words. So he's already thinking that the moves that he makes during this time now will have an effect, whether positive or negative, down the road. And he's looking to make sure that it's on the positive side. So, he's been very supportive of all the Panther players who've been involved with the marching, with the peaceful protests. He's given them his full support. I just like the fact that he just seems to really, even though he hasn't physically met with the team, because I read somewhere that he's only met with like 20 out of the 90 players that's on the roster so far. I just like the fact that he just is able to use the platform and during these unprecedented times, especially for the NFL, to, make the right decisions and say the right things. So by me, Coach Rhule is he's showing the skills that beyond the football field, beyond the X's and O's that I like. And, even though he's a college coach, I'm starting to see that he shows some characteristics of being a coach that could potentially show that he's going to be a leader of men, just based off of character, based off of morals, and just based on, pretty much having common sense, knowing when to say something, knowing when not to say something. So I like that about him.
Right on. Right on. Yeah, Coach Rhule. I'm getting more and more comfortable with this pick. Good job, Tepper. Good job. Good job. Okay. Go ahead and stretch out for this one. So,
controversy time.
Wow, it's not even controversial, man. This is just truth right here, fam. This is truth for you Panther folks right here. We're going to talk about this because we're all living in the same country, right? And we all seen the same things. You cannot misconstrue what happened in Minneapolis. I mean, that's pretty obvious. So Drew Brees has some words to say. Okay, does anybody have the quote on hand? I have it.
Give me 1 second. I can pull it real fast.
Hey, go ahead, bro. Go ahead. So Drew Brees has some things to say about the protesting and the rioting and obviously the looting and things of that nature that's going on. It was an interesting point of view. Now there's some people out there in America who feel this way. But it depends on what side of the tracks you come from, and if you're old school, kind of like Kevin and myself, when I say what side of the tracks, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So if you're not clued in on redlining and what that means, you can grab a history book and Google it. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, Brees seems to feel that he's kind of pissed off about that. He's kind of pissed off about that. Not necessarily about the. Well, I guess he said that he was upset about obviously the police brutality situation, but he was kind of pissed off that people were protesting like they were. So, Jader, you got that, Jay?
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, what Brees say, man?
So essentially what was going on was
Well, I will never agree with anybody disrespecting the flag of the United States of America or our country. Let me just tell you what I see or what I feel when the national anthem is played and when I look at the flag of the United States. I envision my two grandfathers who fought for this country during World War II, one in the Army and one in the Marine Corps, both risking their lives to protect our country and to try to make our country and this world a better place.
He was having a Skype interview with the interviewer, and the interviewer asked them, with the political climate that's going on today in the NFL season up in the wings, would you be surprised to see black athletes or athletes in general take a knee during the anthem again? And what would you say as a leader of that movement? And he said, as a leader of the NFL, what's your role in that? And he said, after seeing all the other players protest, he said, I will never agree with anybody disrespecting the flag in reference to players taking a knee during NFL games for the national anthem playing.
Well then. Will, now you've actually been marching down there in Miami, right?
Yep, for the last 3-4 days we've been out doing our thing.
Where? Staying safe, I hope.
Oh, definitely. Peaceful.
Exactly.
Not them guys. We not the ones. Don't listen to what you see on the news, man. We not the ones breaking windows.
Sure ain't. That's not what I've been saying. But anyway, I'm gonna get into that. I'll let you guys get through this.
We actually stopped guys from doing that. We linked arms, stood behind the CVS, and prevented people from taking that route.
Outstanding. And folks, if you haven't done your research on this, there are a lot of video instances where there's folks coming from outside of the town, outside of the city, outside of the neighborhoods, and just coming there and just messing stuff up and encouraging people to do the same. And yet we see people like Will and these protesters, not the rioters, the protesters from those neighborhoods saying, get the fuck out of here because we're not trying to roll that route. This is about change, not about, smashing necessarily property and things like that nature. But yeah, Will, go ahead, man. What you think about Brees' comments, bro?
To me, it's just ignorance. Keeping your head in the sand. And I think it was very disrespectful to his teammates who were, struggling with these issues. Their friends, their family have to deal with this every day. And just to be so dismissive, selfish, and ignorant to what's going on in the world, I just think it's a terrible look for him, especially in this climate. That's not a knock on his beliefs. I think it's a knock on just his statements in the environment that we're in right now. I think it's, at this stage, Colin Kaepernick explained himself. The flag stands, when you pledge allegiance to the flag, you put your hand over your heart for liberty and justice for all. Justice for all. The key word in that is all. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, they're not getting justice. And they're not the first time that's happened. These are the only instances that have been captured on cell phone camera footage. We see this thing in our neighborhoods every weekly, daily, year after year after year. And it didn't really blow up like this until we could capture it with camera footage. So for him to completely dismiss it and be ignorant of everything that's going on right now, I think was very disappointing. Now, I think we have to remember who the messenger is. He gets paid to throw a football and read defenses. And by having that talent, it's allowed him to, accumulate millions of dollars. And now he has a platform. And that platform allows him to speak on topics that he's ignorant to. So he really has no business having a voice in this movement at all. Just the fact that he makes the money he does and got to the position he got into, he's going to be asked difficult questions like this. But I mean, at the end of the day, his opinion is irrelevant. You know, he's an athlete and he has no obligation to be a part of this movement, and we don't need him to be a part of it. But
That's
to
right.
just totally dismiss it like the way he did, and disrespect Kaepernick's stance and make it about the flag, which it never was. I think the whole narrative about disrespecting the flag in the military was an attempt to create a distraction from what the true issues were that Kaepernick was trying to tell them, which was we're trying to fight injustices in black communities with police brutality. But nobody wanted to hear that. They wanted to dismiss the issues and make it about the flag and the military to create a distraction. And Drew Brees wants to be a part of the distraction instead of the issue. And that's the way I perceived it. Now, because he's an athlete and his opinion on this topic is irrelevant, he's not going to be a part of the solution. It really doesn't matter to me. I just think the people he has to explain it to is his teammates. So when these facilities reopen, let's see what he does when he has to look Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, Cam Jordan, Marshawn Lattimore, the his offensive linemen, all these guys in the eyes and tell them that their lives don't matter. He doesn't care about the issues that them and their families and their friends have to face day in and day out. And that's when we'll see, how it'll go over in the locker room. Because right now, we've seen a lot of his own teammates call him out and tell him that's not it, bro. So
that ain't it, homie.
so that ain't it, man. So I mean, it is what it is. I don't expect everybody to relate to what we go through, and I understand that. You have your privileges. Guys like Drew Brees have privileges and don't experience this day in and day out. So they're going to be ignorant to the topic. But the difference is some of them want to be educated and listen to us, while others want to keep their head in their sand, ignore it, and stay in their comfort bubble. My thing is, if you choose the latter, you don't want to learn about it and stay in your comfort bubble, just please shut the fuck up and let us achieve progress so that we can have the same privileges that you do.
Right on, bud. Well said. Well said. Mr. Avery. Take it easy on him, Kev. Take it easy on him.
Nah, I'm gonna keep this kind of short and sweet because Will done pretty much emptied the clip. But here's what I can say. Like you said, Tim. Me and you've been the older cats. Me born in '79. Being 40 years old. Growing up in the rural area of South Carolina. I've seen some shit. I've been through some shit. So it's very easily for me to relate to a lot of what's going on. I just think that when you have the platform that Drew Brees has, sometimes it is your opinion, but sometimes you gotta think of the sensitivity of it and the people that you have to deal with. Because if I'm not mistaken, about 80% of your teammates are African Americans. And hey, that blocking might be a little bit different this year than it was from last. Hey,
you don't want them problems.
Sometimes you got to bite the nose to spite your face. They say so. I just. Hey, I just wouldn't want to be him, but that was his right to choose. He felt like he said what he had to say. I just felt like that conversation was irrelevant to the task at hand. So when you're seeing, police officers kneel, you're saying that you disagree with them. When you see that the fact that this whole thing has just enormed to a global, movement. Because what we got to make sure is that this remains a movement and not a moment. where things going to be at 3 weeks from now, 3 months from now, 3 years from now. Where's the same, like I always like to say, keep that same energy. So I just want to make sure that people who think like Drew Brees are able to finally get the point. And because from my understanding, what you went to Purdue, career started in San Diego, you're in New Orleans. You've been in New Orleans since 2006. And from what I read, you've been very much involved in the communities. So for me, it's just kind of hard that, being from the South, I know it's a lot of racial issues and a lot of tensions down there, particularly in the city of New Orleans. I don't know if you ever went to the Ninth Ward, but but a lot of your fans are, and so just hearing a lot of Facebook groups that I'm in, the Saints fans, are torn between this, and I just think that in this upcoming season, every player that sacked Drew Brees should take a knee right beside him. That would be symbolic. Matter of fact, as soon as this podcast is over, I'm going to put that on my Twitter, and I'm gonna tag him in it, and I might just tag a few other star defensive. I might look at every pass rusher that's on his schedule, and let him know, hey, when you see Drew Brees take and sack him this season, take a knee.
Mm-hmm.
Let him get something like that would definitely get the point across. He's probably glad that he can't get tackled in practice. Because I'm pretty sure right now, Cam Jordan might, based on what I'm seeing on Twitter, Cam Jordan might just give him them 41-year-old bones a little bit more than what he's been wanting. He done had that red jersey on all these years. So
oops, my bad.
Hey, we'll see how it goes. But
oops, my bad. Oops.
Had Jameson that coming in and eating W's again.
What the hell was that?
But yeah, overall though, I just think that his opinion was not well thought of, and even if he felt that way, that this was not the time and place for it. So, but he has the right to feel the way he feels. But when you're on that platform, when you speak your words, know that it comes with repercussions. And best believe that your teammates are probably looking at you differently now. And don't get me wrong, I hate the Saints like I hate anybody else in our division, but my hate for them is a little bit more. This just kind of, as a fan, just adds, as they like to say, pepper the gumbo a little bit more for me as a fan. So
pepper the gumbo.
Yeah. So I close it off by saying that fuck the Saints.
My man.
Real talk though. Real talk, fuck the Saints, the football team. But at the same time, as men, I gotta give props to Michael Thomas, to Alvin Kamara, Emmanuel Sanders, Cam Jordan, Marcus Colston, all these guys for calling out Drew Brees on his bullshit and telling him that's not it, bro. So as fuck the Saints all day, every day, the football team, but as individual players and men on that team, I got to give him respect for standing up to him and telling him what's real.
Right on, man. Well said. Man. So let me get this straight. So Drew said this from the comfort of his home, correct?
Yes, sir.
So he wasn't, under any stress or pressure or anything of that nature. He just sat down and had a conversation, right?
Yeah. What was in his heart came out, bro.
What was in his heart came out. Interesting. Now, folks, I'm just this is just me. All right, this podcast does not represent the Panther organization officially. This is just the 4-man rush, and this is just Timmy VO. If what come out your mouth equates to you being comfortable when it comes out your mouth, by God, it's real. That came from the heart. That earned some type of blowback because it's not like this man was on stage, in front of the RNC or something. You know what I mean? This dude was being interviewed straight up from his crib, and he was comfortable in his slippers. So he felt pretty damn comfortable. And hey, like Will said, everybody is more than entitled to their opinion about a situation, especially something this volatile. But it says something when compassion does not enter your mind when thinking of something like this. It says something when you can't think about your fellow Americans being snuffed out on the pavement, on the concrete, in the road for not even a minor infraction. It says something when you can't feel for people like that. And now I am not excusing in no way, shape, or form any of the destruction that's been going on in these cities. But if you've been watching and following this on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, you will see over and over and over again, and we'll testify to this, how the people of the actual communities are banding together and keeping people from destroying shit. It would really make me feel better if Drew Brees would probably have done more research on the situation before he got comfortable and just talking out the side of his fucking neck. Excuse my language. But folks, you got to understand the pain. You have to understand that anger that has been inside of folks' chests for years. You have to understand a lot of people walking out in these streets have lost somebody to some type of bullshit violence that never should have been there in the first place. And folks say media pumps it up, media pushes it, whatever. And, they report the quote unquote news. Sure. But they don't report everything. Especially when it comes to the black community. We don't have media hype like that. So what you're seeing is a snippet of what goes on in black communities across this country. That's the problem. And that's what bothers me about what Drew Brees said, knowing that he's been around black men pretty much all his freaking life playing the game of football. And you don't understand that? Shit. Son, you might come to work, but you ain't working with anybody. That's why he knows a playbook like that. Because he don't know his players. Real talk. And that's all I have to say about that. Thank you very much for listening.
And Tim, let me just clarify, when Will hit it on the spot. From a football point, as always, fuck the Saints, fuck the Falcons, fuck the Bucs, because it's divisional rivals, from a football aspect. But, definitely, big props to not only his own teammates, but for other contemporaries around the league. I saw with Aaron Rodgers of the Green Bay Packers, stood up and called him out on it. Mm-hmm. So I just think that, like we were discussing, during the pregame before coming on, that the key to our quest to finally get some equality right here might be the fact that white people are getting more involved now than ever before with the movement. Because think about it, black people, we're only 14% of the country in population. So even if you had every single black person on board and doing it, we're still a very small group. And matter of fact, I think we are the smallest minority in the country, if I'm not mistaken, because I know the percentage, if I looked up for the Latino community was bigger than ours. I'm not sure about the Asians.
Nah.
But yeah, the key to this is our fellow, white friends and white Americans, just being involved and getting in. And what I've been seeing is just, my dad, God rest his soul, he would have loved to see, that type of unity, because he was on the front line when there was the water hoses and the dogs and all that back in the day. So to see that it's to manifest it to where it is now, I think he would have been, would have been very proud to see it. So I just think that this whole thing is, it was a much needed shakeup. Now, I don't agree, as stated, with all the, the violence and destruction, because I I don't want people taking advantage of a bad situation for quote material possession gains. But
Mm-hmm.
in the words of MLK, rioting is the voice of the unheard. So we've been peaceful, we've been praying, we've been doing this for decades. We're still not getting heard.
Real talk.
So
Amen. Yep.
that's all I have to say on that.
Oh no, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, but like a lot of people defending Brees will bring up his efforts after Hurricane Katrina, building homes and all the charitable work he does in the New Orleans community in defense of him. And I'm not gonna lie, I appreciate when players and organizations do that kind of thing, but just keep in mind, Jerry Richardson was also charitable throughout the Carolinas and did a lot for black communities in those areas, but that stopped him from disrespecting women in his organization or using racial slurs to insult employees
Mm-hmm.
in his organization and make them feel like shit. No.
Mm.
So miss me with using money as, to hide behind being, insensitive to issues in minority communities. What's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And we have to give credit where it's due and criticize when it's due at the right times.
Mm.
I'll say this because the fellas have really gone in on this one. They hit every nail on every head, I think. But I'll say this for our listeners right now. I would say if you're not sure what privilege is, I want to tell you, privilege is taking an imagination and then projecting that imagination onto reality with no wake up call. So what I think with this Drew Brees thing, he has taken a question that was about protesting something that's very real and very prevalent in today's society, and he now projects his own views and morals on that reality, in spite of the suffering of the people that he works with. Like 70% of the NFL is black. There's no way any of this is foreign to him. He can't go to work without seeing a black person. Not
Exactly.
like if you look on the Saints roster right now, probably a vast majority of them are African Americans.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you can't distance yourself from their struggle because I know you see it. Like you're literally in New Orleans. There's no way you can't see it and recognize what's going on, and then you still felt comfortable with saying all this. So it just goes to show. I don't think Drew Brees even was very much pressed of whatever was going on as far as protests and riots. I don't even know if he even much cares about it. But I think it's very telling how he responded, and of course he has every right to feel. Well, I wouldn't even say every right. He has the ability to feel how he feels.
Yeah.
But you can't even understand and take from a perspective that this isn't even about your cloth or your song.
Right.
I'm like that was just baffling to me.
Yeah. I really wish I didn't know this about Drew, man. He completely and again, right? This is his personal, right? His personal feelings versus his football prowess. The man's a hell of a quarterback. I mean, he'll go down as one of the baddest motherfuckers out there now. Don't trip. But man, from a personal standpoint, bro, you just really threw a lot of shade on yourself for me, bro. That was crazy. Go ahead, Will. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just think JD used a great word, is privilege. I mean, he talked even when the example he used about his father being a part of the military and having the utmost respect for the flag. Well, guess what? Both my grandfathers were on that same military. But guess what happened when they came home? They had to deal with segregation. They couldn't use white restrooms. They couldn't use white water fountains.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't eat at white restaurants. My granddad was a truck driver, and on his route, him and his co-worker were hungry and wanted to pull over to a restaurant and eat. Their response was, we'll let the white guy eat, but we won't feed your guy that's with you.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't able to get anything to eat on his truck route. So why can't black veterans have the same privileges as white veterans. And I think that continues to this day. Black veterans come home and have to deal with the same police brutality and oppression in their communities.
Yeah.
So it's not that we want Drew Brees to be the leader of this movement. I mean, that's not what we're asking him to do. All we're saying is shut the fuck up, step aside, and don't get in the way as we try to fight to get the same privileges that you have.
Mm-hmm. And in a time like this, folks, it's best to listen, right? And that's on everybody. Well, it's best to listen to each other. However, we have to also keep in mind why we're listening, and what we're listening for. Okay, when somebody goes through something as traumatic as losing a loved one, tragically, to somebody who is supposed to uphold the law and save lives for no reason, right? That pain, right? It resonates with a lot of different people because, again, right, this has happened to the community for years. So listening and understanding how people feel, right, will alleviate that quote unquote privilege point of view, because now instead of being privileged, right, you're understanding, right, you're compassionate. You have this avenue of communication that can open up now, and both sides will realize that we have more in common than not, right? We have a common goal, and that's a peaceful country. That should be the common goal overall, right? Kevin and I are veterans. Okay, we've we've slung shit with a whole bunch of shades, folks, and it's evident. It's evident that we all have more in common as Americans dealing with this pain than we realize. It's just that we don't have an avenue of communication. Everybody wants to talk, but nobody. Well, I'm not gonna say nobody, but the right people don't want to listen, I should say, because as Kevin pointed to, we are a small populace in this country, right? Which means our voting power is not that strong. But if we have enough allies, right, and we can understand one another from that aspect, even despite the political avenues, we can come together as a unit and get certain things done in this country to make it safer and better and more enjoyable, especially for the little ones, because they are watching us. Don't forget that. Cameras on everywhere, folks. These kids are tuned in, and they ain't got school neither. They are soaking this up every second. Let's not forget that, please. So, Drew Brees, good luck to you, fam. Good luck to you. Go ahead, Will.
I think, like we talk about platforms, Drew Brees should be irrelevant to this discussion. When you look at a TV, what we're doing here in Miami, what I'm seeing in Charlotte, New York, D.C., L.A., all 50 states across the world, Paris, France,
London,
Paris isn't France, but Paris, London, all these countries across the world are protesting racial injustice in America. It's just a beautiful thing to see all these people come together. So I think just keeping the focus on ignorant people that can't relate, like Drew Brees, who kind of live in their bubble and live off their privileges, versus people that are on the streets every day protesting and trying to make a difference and actually opening their ears and listening to the issues at hand and wanting to give all Americans liberty and justice for all. That just can't go ignored.
Right.
So, I don't want to allow guys like Brees' comments to overshadow what's really going on across America right now. It's a beautiful thing to see these young guys fight for their freedoms that they're granted by the Constitution. I do my best to be out there with them, but my 36-year-old legs, can't keep up with the 18, 19, and 20-year-olds as much as they used to. So I'll do my part, though, man. It's just great to see everybody come together like this.
Right on. Yeah, we appreciate you, Will, and everybody else out there who was, protesting in a peaceful manner and doing it the right way. I'm sorry, folks. I get we gotta shake some feathers, man. But there's also that element that ensures that everybody's safe, That's what Will's a part of, and I much respect to everybody out there who's standing up and speaking out, no doubt.
I'm just taking time to really let it breathe. So baby, just chill. Yeah. She love it. We out in public and we can just chill with my partners, and we can go back to my crib and just chill under covers and do we call me and you lovers.
The Four-Man Rush is brought to you by the love and respect of and for the Carolina Panthers and Carolina Panther fans everywhere. Keep pounding. The Four-Man Rush is a non-affiliate of the Carolina Panther organization. All thoughts, assessments, and content of this podcast is directly related to the Four-Man Rush exclusively. Thank you.